Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Thông Ninh Học院Canada Society. My name is Ernest. I'm the CEO of Thông Ninh Học院. Today, with great pleasure, we have our very prestigious guest, Dr. George Lee, joining us today. Today's sessions we're going to have we'll conduct it in English. We'll have interpretations in Cantonese and Mandarin. Let me first begin by have a quick introduction of George. George is actually a good friend and colleagues from Hong Kong. He is a lecturer and also a licensed psychologist. He has been teaching and research at the Center of Buddhist Studies at the Hong Kong University, and also a licensed psychologist in the states of California. He is a founding member of the Masters of Buddhist Counseling program, as well as postgraduate diploma in professional practice of Buddhist counseling. His primary research focus is the integrations of early Buddhist teachings into the theoretical orientations for mental health treatment, known as Note, Know, Choose model. George has recently published a textbook in Buddhist counseling with Routledge, titled The Guide to Buddhist Counseling, and he has some of his new book with us today. So if you're interested, feel free to contact us after the workshop today. So today's workshop will be in two sessions, slightly different topic, but also different target audience, I would say. I will let George introduce a little bit more. In the first session, we would talk about Buddhist counseling and integrations of ancient wisdom and modern counseling. And then the second session, after lunch, starting from 12:30 to 2:30 Pacific time, we will talk about Buddhist counseling, practical theory, and clinical applications. Let me also go through some of the logistics of this morning workshop. So I talk about the simultaneous interpretations. So for the Cantonese, sorry that we have to put on our headset. So see whether the sound volume is good enough. Also for our live audience as well. And also for our online participants, because we have a good group of online participants in Zoom. For the Zoom translation, that you can choose, like there's a globe sign on the Zoom, choose the right language. Like it could be in Cantonese or Mandarin. So make sure that the audio is work. If you have any issues, feel free to type us any issues on the chat box. And also, we would have, I think, half an hour maybe, like a Q&A sessions at the later part of the workshop. So feel free to type any questions that you have. Like even like when you're listening to George, have any question, feel free to type in your question. We'll consolidate it and also bring it to George later part of the workshop. So for live audience, of course, you can raise your hand. And then we have a very interactive discussion. I think that is our intention, to have a very engaging conversation this morning. Yeah, I think that is basically what I want to cover. At the end of the workshop in the morning and also afternoon, we will show you a questionnaire. So there will be a QR code. We hope that you can fill in the questionnaire for us, because we want to know how to improve, how to do better, and also what area of interest that would be most relevant to you. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to George. Once again, let us give him a big hand to welcome George. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you very much for this opportunity and invitation by Thông Ninh Học院. Usually before I start a lecture, I like to invite one sound of the singing bowl to have us come back to the present moment. So our mind is always on a goal, that we think about something that we like, or try hard not to think about something that we hate. But either way, we keep running around thinking about many different things. Many times we suffer because we think too much, too hard, too fast, and we get lost. So one way to have less suffering can be pretty easy, which is use one of our senses to come back to this moment. Like just now, we were listening to the singing bowl. The sound helps us ground our mind, sync all the thoughts, and just for a few seconds, we can be clear and stable and be able to be here. So coming back here, I want to thank you so much for giving me this time to talk about Buddhist counseling. So in this about 2 hours, I will try to talk about Buddhist counseling as a more simple way of living, to take a few concepts and to perhaps help you experience some ways that we all can live a happier life because of Buddhism. And in the afternoon, the workshop will be tailored more towards professional counselors, psychologists, social workers, or other professionals about how they can incorporate Buddhist counseling in their work, and hopefully to help with their work, to help more people relieve their suffering. So thank you for Ernest, Dr. Ng, for introducing me. It's just a little bit of my background. What I wanted to point out is that I started from psychology. I went to university in the United States, being someone who thought that psychology would be the main way that we can help people, we can take suffering away, until I met Buddhism and realizes that Buddhism is actually much more effective, much more profound than psychology. And my goal, at least in this life, would be to integrate Buddhism and psychology more effectively so that we can use this way to help more people, including ourselves, to liberate from suffering. To start with, I want to share the background, my perspective of some history of Buddhist counseling. So, have you ever heard or seen the story Journey to the West, 西遊記? Yeah? Have you? Kind of, right? So, I think some parts of it can capture my first meeting with my master, Venerable Hin Hong Fa Si. It was about 8 years ago, 7-8 years ago. I come back from the United States to Hong Kong, and I was a psychologist already. I was mainly teaching psychology at a university called University of the West. Coming back to Hong Kong, I was thinking maybe I can learn a little Buddhism so that I can make my understanding, my practice of psychology better. And then I met Venerable Hin Hong. At that time, I still come back with a mindset that psychology is the best. It can help people. Listen to me, learn from me. There were a lot of conceit, too much confidence, until I met my master, Venerable Hin Hong. And he asked me, so what do you do? He said, and I said, I'm a psychologist. And I did that, did this, did that. And he suddenly said, oh, you are a psychologist, right? I don't know any better psychologist than the Buddha. Buddha is the best psychologist. At that moment, I was a little shocked. Oh, really? I never thought about it that way. And then I was trying to see whether that's right or if I have anything to defend. But very quickly, I realized that Master Venerable Hinong is right. The Buddha is the best psychologist because from our understanding in human psychology, he might be the only person who claims to completely liberate from suffering. He is a truly happy person who has attained nirvana or nibbana, known as the highest state of psychological happiness. Since then, I become much more humble and started learning Buddhism all over as a student and learned a lot from my master, Venerable Hinong. The scene reminded me of the Journey to the West, Sayao, the first time the Monkey King met his master, Venerable Xuanzhuang, and be convinced that maybe there is a more skillful, better way of practice or living life. Since then, we have done a lot of things in the Center of Buddhist Studies of the University of Hong Kong. Please allow me to introduce a little bit of this wonderful place. We're in Hong Kong. Venerable Hinong and other members founded this place about 20 years ago. And we have tried very hard to do different teaching, research, and knowledge exchange, which means that using academic knowledge to transfer to the community, to not just teach or study in a way that is far away from people. Instead, we want to use that knowledge and skills to make people's life better, to reduce more suffering in the world. And in fact, we have an esteemed colleague, Venerable Hin Yan, today with us, and she also witnessed how hard we work in order to promote Buddhism in different ways, in order to help more people. So in the past, we can proudly say that we have earned quite some recognition in the field. And specifically for the development of Buddhist counseling, in the last several years, we have done quite a lot of things. At the very beginning, our center started with a Master in Buddhist Studies, which is more a theoretical learning of Buddhism. And in 2018, we started a Master in Buddhist Counseling, which is one step forward to apply the knowledge in order to better understand human mind, human needs, and learn some skills to help them. While the Master of Buddhist Counseling is not yet a professional degree, meaning that after you earned the degree, you still need further training to be a recognized professional counselor. So later, we developed what we call a really long name, Postgraduate Diploma in Professional Practice of Buddhist Counseling. Completion of this diploma program can allow you to be a real professional in counseling and practice competently to help people. And as you may know, any kind of professional requires certain kind of recognition or registration with some professional association. So with the Hong Kong Buddhist Association, we have also developed the registration bureau for professional counselors. Students who graduated can register with them and become recognized professional counselor. So this is a key capturing of the advancement of Buddhist counseling that we have in Hong Kong in the last couple of years. Even though this is a very new profession, but we can proudly claim that there are professional Buddhist counselors in the community that are helping people having less suffering every day. So let me tell you a little bit about Master of Buddhist Counseling program. In this program, our slogan founded by Venerable Hin Hong, is very important. Motivated by compassion. Of course, we all suffer, but instead of just caring about our own suffering, there are many people in the world who also care about other people. And this program has become a platform to gather faculty, staff, and students who don't just want to sit there at home watching the world suffer, but we all want to do something to make the world a better place. And then we come together to study, to research, to practice Buddha's informed ways to help with ourselves, others, and the society. And in this program, even though it's in Hong Kong U, a very academic place, but our way of teaching have a lot of experiential learning, a lot of reflections and contemplation. In class, students need to do meditation and yoga. They need to do a lot of exercises to reflect on themselves, to face who they are, to face their clinging and attachment, to develop ways that they can regularly practice and cultivate so that when they see people with suffering, they can be calm, they can be composed, and they can be compassionate. This is a very key teaching of the program, to make the students psychologically, spiritually ready so that they can engage with different people with different problems. And just to let you know, this is my son and my wife, and the program actually started the same year that my second son was born. So it was a very interesting time. And then the postgraduate diploma will be a higher level of what we call professional training. As I was trained as a psychologist first, I have some experiences in what constitutes a professional training. The things that you see here are basically to let you know that when you graduate from this program, there are some expected competencies that students have to meet when they come out. For example, they need to be able to see clients, provide counseling on a one-on-one way. They also need to learn how to do a group setting, doing group counseling. They also need to learn that counseling or any kind of psychological services are not confined in an office setting. Seeing people like me dressing nicely in an air conditioning room, it is a privilege. Most people suffering are not in that kind of situation. They may be in elderly center, they may be at home, they may be at school, or many other places in our community. So our students are also trained to go out to the field to provide services to reach different corners near us. And besides that, very importantly, besides doing counseling, visiting people, they need to learn how to teach meditation. Teaching meditation is very important. Nowadays, maybe you have heard about the term mindfulness, especially like here in Western countries. So many different forms of mindfulness, some of them closer to Buddhism, some of them further away from Buddhism. And our goal is to train students to be able to teach the Buddhist understanding and definition of mindfulness, because we believe that will be better in helping people cope with their suffering. And besides that, being a counselor in Buddhism, we need to learn how to teach the Dharma, teaching Buddhist teachings to people in skillful ways. So those are the 5 key pillars of our competency of training. Besides that, thanks to Donglin Kok Yun, we were able to found the first in-house training center in Buddhist counseling. So interesting that when you go to a counseling center to most of the places in the world, you usually see an office setting in some nice building or by itself, but our Buddhist counseling center is embedded in a temple. When you see a temple, 100 years old temple, very traditional Chinese Buddhist temple, it's hard for you to expect when you walk in, there is a very nice counseling center there. And you can see the front office of our counseling center has a very special Guan Yin. Have you guys seen this Guan Yin before? This type of posture and the belongings she holds? She holds a duster to clean dust, symbolizing this Guan Yin, the specialty is to clean our impurities of our heart, of our mind. That signifies the essence of Buddhist counseling. We help our clients learn ways to practice and purify their hindrances and defilements, which having a Guan Yin there give us a lot of spiritual support. And we have also seen many cases that other psychological services, psychiatry, psychologists, cannot help with the client. But when they come to Buddhist counseling, they are able to get much better. Part of that, I think, is the spiritual power of the temple, of the Dharma, of the Guan Yin. So this is a counseling room, a big counseling room that we have. You can see it's very comfortable. Besides counseling room, we also have a big multi-purpose room to teach clients, participants, meditation, or teach different classes. So we are very honored to be able to have this place as a training center for Buddhist counselors. So let's come back to our topic today. What is Buddhist counseling? I have to let you know that as a scholar, we all have our own definition, own view of things. Sometimes we don't agree with each other, but this is just the nature of things. And based on the limitation of my intelligence, my experience, I can only tell you my definition of what is Buddhist counseling. So to understand Buddhist counseling, I want to let you know a little bit of the history of how we arrived here in psychology. About 40 years ago, there was a very evolutionary term called mindfulness in the field of psychology. Mindfulness-based stress reduction was a model that was actually based on Buddhist practice of mindfulness. But imagine that time, 40 years ago, when you talk to any psychologist, any researcher in psychology, they would think you are crazy if you talk about some Buddhist thoughts or practices. But one person emerged. His name is John Kabat-Zinn. He started as a microbiologist working in hospitals and labs. But personally, he is a Zen Buddhist practitioner, learning meditation for a long time. He believes that if we integrate mindfulness into our treatment model, that actually can be much more effective than medication sometimes. So what he did was, he found people suffering from traditional health and mental health problems, stress, chronic pain, depression, anxiety. And he developed an 8 weeks mindfulness practice called MBSR to see whether this new practice can help people reduce their symptoms more effective than other means. Magically, surprisingly, he found that same clients, same patients, when they do this special way of breathing, their symptoms can reduce by almost 50%, depending on the disorder. But that 50% is without any special medication. Since then, when people developed such a cost-effective way, the whole field of psychology was crazy about this term, mindfulness. But very quickly, the scholars realized that mindfulness is just part of Buddhism. If you have heard about the Noble Eightfold Path, there are at least 8 ways of cultivation or practice in Buddhism. And mindfulness mainly just comes from right mindfulness. And it was so successful. So more people in psychology, they are thinking that if I take one, it's so good, why don't I take more? Just like we imagine a pizza cutting into 8 slices, eating one is so tasty, why don't I eat more? And then a middle development are those contemporary psychological models, dialectical behavioral therapy, or acceptance and commitment therapy, that they take more Buddhist wisdom. But very quickly, more scholars are thinking that, is it the best way to take Buddhism and integrate into psychology? Or we can actually develop something based on Buddhism, from Buddhism. Because there are so many Buddhists in the world, so many people, our cultural roots, our worldview, actually agree or resonate with Buddhism. So the latest development in the field is that we don't try to take things from Buddhism and fit into psychology. Instead, we try to develop something from Buddhism and to make some counseling models or treatment models. So this is what we call the starting of Buddhist counseling. Well, there are different definitions. One definition I had a few years ago is that Buddhist counseling is a process of reducing suffering in individuals using wisdom and interventions from Buddhism. Basically, the whole sentence is saying it is still a Western counseling model that you talk to clients, you listen, you intervene in a certain way. But the thought, the philosophy, the guiding principles are congruent with Buddhist teachings. And a few years later, I gave a more specific definition. Buddhist counseling, from my view, is mainly a way of cultivating the mind, cultivation of mind. Of course, we have our body, we have different components. Many times, when we suffer, it's about how the mind is not very skillful. For example, when something irritates us, makes us upset, our first reaction will be to resist it, hate it, run away from it, and fight with it. And all those action in mind actually makes us suffer more. Other situations, when we have something pleasant, something we like, we see someone very pleasing, someone that we like to be with, we want to be with that person. We eat some very tasty food, or we do something very enjoyable. We all go to Japan for a trip. When we have something that is so pleasant, our mind functions as a way of holding, grasping onto that. But sadly, in reality, we cannot hold on to things that are present forever. We will lose them. Things change, or we no longer like them so much. And the mind is not skillful enough to know when we hold on to something that we like, it actually brings us more suffering. So cultivation of mind, part of that is to understand the nature of things. It is also to soothe your mind to be more peaceful, so that we have some distance to see how our mind works, especially how we think, how we act in a way that make us suffer more than we need to. When we practice in a certain way, when we become more skillful, we can learn that actually we can see the world a little differently, so that we don't suffer as much. So in Buddhist counseling, at least in my way, because I'm a psychologist, so it still happens in a way that we are talking to a client in the office, sitting and communicating, listening in a certain way. But the aim or the goal to guide client can be different from that in traditional psychology. And I will tell you a little bit more about my understanding of it. So Buddhist counseling, our main goal, I will try to use the simplest way that I can define, which is to ease or to reduce the clinging to the self-notion. One way to explain the cause of suffering is that we hold too much onto how we think who we are, how we define ourselves. The more rigidly we have to be someone, we want to be someone, or we want to feel that we exist, the more problems, the more suffering will occur. So the goal when I see clients is, when I see them suffer, I try to understand what is their clinging. Why do they have to try so much to be this person? What does it mean? What needs does it satisfy? And is there any way that they can be okay in letting go a little bit on the tight clinging? And the objective, like I pointed out, different ways of mind cultivation. It can be from learning certain Buddhist teachings to see themselves, see the world. It can be practicing meditation to help them soothe their mind, learn a way to observe and attend. It can be reflecting on their underlying needs, yearnings, or it can be practicing some skillful things in daily life, different ways of talking to people, or even doing something kindness, out of kindness for themselves and other people. So all of them, different skillful means, are specific ways that when we see a client, we try to understand the very unique and specific experience of suffering. And as a Buddhist counselor, we try to tailor-make what we know to fit in that person's world and mindset. So this is kind of essence of Buddhist counseling. And of course, in any kind of counseling, we talk about intervention. Intervention are the specific techniques or tools that you use to help someone cope with their suffering. And in Buddhism, maybe you have already known, we have the Four Noble Truths. The dukkha, the causes of the dukkha, cessation, and the path to practice the six dukkha. And basically the main interventions are concentration, how we can recollect our mind to be stable, to be clear. And wisdom, how we can contemplate and reflect and see the reality of the world so that we don't cling on to something that do not really exist. And discipline, how we start from behaviorally, shaping the environment internally and externally so that it can support our cultivation of the mind. Basically, all Buddhist schools, they follow the Four Noble Truths and these 3 pillars of practice. So for me, I try to use those principles and apply to the understanding of human suffering and find ways that is congruent with the Buddha's teaching to become intervention. But those diagrams are kind of complicated. That will be more for this afternoon, which I will present a case and talk about different ways to apply those thought practices in helping clients. But for this morning, I want to keep it simple. I just have one goal for all of us here, which is how can I become a happier person? Isn't that nice? Buddhism originated from the fact that there is suffering in the world. If we shift a perspective, especially in a mundane life, we just want something very simple. We just want to be happier. So let's see, is there any way from Buddhist counseling that we can learn to be a happier person? To be a happier person, we need to first understand more about our suffering, dukkha. Have you ever thought about why do we suffer so much? Yeah? Why? Why do we suffer so much? We all have a very private answer, but in Buddhism, it's mainly because we have the I. We hold too much to the I. We see the world, everything, from our own center point of view. And we hear things, we act, we speak in a way to satisfy how I am and what I need. For example, the sutta talk about a few ways that we attach to the I, like this is mine, craving. This is the love of my life. Have you ever thought, what is the difference between you see a girl on your street versus your wife, who is the love of your life? Basically, they are the same person. But if the girl on the street is with another man romantically, versus my wife, the love of my life, is with another man romantically, my personal feeling will be really, really different, right? But why is that? Isn't that girl and this girl exactly the same? The only difference is the second one. When I label my wife, I put the I on the person. When I put the I on the person, which means that I should have some control, that person should have some obligation, my expectation is very different. And because of my expectation is different, I suffer. I think this is mine. I need to control. I need to have it to satisfy my needs, to be loved, to be secure. Or another one is, this I am a conceit. I don't know for you guys, but conceit is a very common thing that you see when you teach at a university, in academia. Scholars like us, easy to think we are better than other people. Like when I publish a book, part of me can say, I'm so good, I get this book with a great publisher. I'm so competent, I get people to respect. That is actually a very dangerous way of thinking. That is very costly. We need to use a lot of ways to keep on proving to ourselves that I'm worthy, I'm good, I'm competent. When things are going fine, okay, we have some happiness. But when things are not going fine, this is a disaster. I'm dumb, I'm not competent, no one acknowledges me, no one likes me. When we hold on to a self that is defined in a certain way, we basically put in so much effort to keep on continually paint an image, flourish that kind of self, to make ourselves feel like I exist and I'm secure. That is not a fun process, and that kind of process can go on life after life, and we still don't know how much suffering it brings. Another thing is, this is myself, the view. We hold on to many different kinds of view. I don't know if you see what happened in Hong Kong a few years ago about the social movements. Many parents and many children, many couples, because they have a different political view, family was broken. There were fights, physically or emotionally, just because their view of the world, their view of what is right is different. Most of the time, when you see people, they are doing something that hurts others, they still think, I am on the right side. And we judge them, you shouldn't do something to hurt people. We also think we are on the right side. That's how conflicts happen, because we all attach to the fact that I need to be right. I am on the right side. So again, do you guys know Andy Lau? Andy Lau, one of the very famous celebrity of all time. How he needs to shape the image of Andy Lau, how he has to live in a way that don't disappoint people. Andy Lau needs to be good, competent, hardworking. On the stage, he needs to shine. All those kind of things is actually very costly, very tiring, and that can bring a lot of suffering. While like we are not all Andy Lau, but we all act like that, as a George, as you, as anyone else. So the question is, do we have to be someone? Do we have to be this particular person? So we come back to clinging, 執着, clinging. You know, mistakenly, we hold on to something because we believe when we hold on to it, it makes us happy. We are not stupid people. We still hold because we don't understand holding actually makes us suffer. But in reality, anything that we hold, we will eventually lose it. That makes us suffer. In order to let go of that grasping or clinging, one of the first steps is we need to be very honest to ourselves. What is actually the things that we're grasping or holding? Is it some needs? Is it some people's approval or recognition? Is it my body, my physical body, my health, my beauty, or certain kind of values? We all have it. In order to let go of it, we need to face it, understand it, accept it, and see whether we want to let go of it. From my understanding of Buddhist counseling and Buddhism, to let go of clinging, it always comes back to a very subtle but important conscious decision of, now I will let it go. I forgive this person. I decide not to get angry. I decide I want to change. It's all very subtle, very private, but it all comes back to how we talk to ourselves. Let me give you an example. So just now we talked about Andy Lau. Now let's talk about George. So this was 23 years ago. Me and my good friends, we were just finished with public examination in Hong Kong, HKCEE. We call that 會考. And younger people on internet may not know what it is, and it's okay. So this is how I look like. And in fact, I actually met my wife there 23 years ago. I was born and raised in a pretty good family. My father is a medical doctor. My mother helped him with the business, with the private practice. Even though they are very kind, very nice people, one special thing about them is physical appearance. The face is very important to them. Since I was young, I was educated that besides being educated, being intelligent, I still need to look very good, or else people wouldn't like you or respect you. That kind of voices from my parents become part of the I or self-notion, and I hold on to that view, hold on to this body, and things were okay because luckily I was born in an okay body shape and face, so it was okay at the beginning. Until 10 years later, suddenly my body weight almost doubled. Just like Venerable Hinyan, when I showed my wife this picture, she didn't recognize this is her husband. This is actually me when I was in my first doctoral program. This is me when I was about 17 years old, weighing 140 pounds. This is me weighing 193 pounds. Usually when I give a talk to this point, people will start to ask, so how do you lose your weight? And sorry, this is not a weight loss talk. This is about grasping, losing talk. We talk about how to lose our clinging, not our weight. At that time, I still remember the whole world became different. My parents, very loving and compassionate parents, suddenly become really mean. I still remember that time I was in the United States. When I came back to Hong Kong, I missed my parents. My parents saw me. They opened a door and then they paused and asked, "Who is this fat uncle?" 呢個肥佬阿叔係邊個嚟㗎? And my friends, when I go to dinner with them, usually when you go out with a bunch of people, there are some leftover food. And they will make a comment like, "Let George eat it. I think he's not full yet." 叫阿 George 食啦，佢個樣好似未飽喎。Like that. Can you imagine those kind of comments, those kind of experiences? How much does it hurt my clinging to the self-notion? I always thought that being influenced by my parents, appearance is important. But at some point in my life, I lost that. I become fat and unlikable, as said by people around me. So after that, I tried very hard to lose weight. And this is what you see later. Become that George that people recognize. Become that George that looks good, sounds intelligent, in order to fit my need of the self-notion. Well, it brings a lot of suffering. It brings a lot of insecurity of, if I'm not this George, will people still like me, acknowledge me? And of course, everyone gets old. Your face, your body shape kept changing. Sometimes when I see some celebrities, they have a lot of Botox on their face that looks like they cannot have any facial expressions. I would say those are actually clinging to the body. Clinging to the body to a point that they cannot accept change. But change is just a nature of reality. And now, luckily, I'm more accepting to my body. So you can see all the pimples and rashes, and I'm okay about that. And in the past, when I go down to the street, I have to bring my hair cleaner, wash my face, and put on contact lens to make I look a little better. But now I can just put on my glasses and walk out to eat breakfast and wear slippers. 踢拖落街唔洗頭 is okay for me now. So I see that it's part of letting go of the notion of George. But just to let you know that maybe the other day, if you see me, you will not recognize me because most of the time, I do not look like that. To be happy. Rule number one that I want to share with you from my experiences as a Buddhist counselor and as a Buddhist of cultivation. Regular meditation practice. This is very, very important. There are many ways of practice. Traditionally, sitting meditation, mindful breathing, or chanting, or even you can use other different ways to concentrate your mind. Drawing, mindful walking, mindful eating. But no matter what, at least I think every day we need to designate certain kind of time to practice meditation, to focus, to be mindful. And in Buddhism, from my understanding, meditation is mainly about jhana. When you're sitting, focusing your mind, collecting your mind to a point so that you reach a very stable and concentrated psychological level. But the practice is not just that. When we talk about Buddhism, when we talk about Buddhist practice, it actually means a 24-hour cultivation. It is a all-moment practice, meaning that besides having time that we sit down and breathe, in our daily life, there are many things that we can reflect. We can cultivate our mind to be a happier person. But either way, starting with some regular routine will be very important. Well, when we talk about meditation, I want to talk a little bit about my way of explaining mindfulness. For example, our mindful breathing, mindful eating, how to collect our mind. I think the first thing is that when we are mindful, it means that moment by moment, we are trying to be aware of what happened in our body and in our mind. It is also not just this present moment awareness. We need to have a lot of reminders to ourselves that I need to be mindful, especially in difficult time in a day when we are agitated, when we have certain kind of ill will to hate something, when we want something. In those situations that we have suffering, those are actually very important time to be mindful and learn about, what is my mind doing? How does my mind function to react to different things that happen? The more awareness we have, the more room that we can make a wiser decision to change the way to see the world, change the way of speaking, change the way of acting, so that the karma, our relationship, can be different. In order to be mindful, we are also cultivating an attitude of acceptance, to accept things as they are, to be curious and investigate. And all that processes are trying to detach us from the I-centeredness to try to see things from a different perspective, which is going towards what we say about non-self, anatta. And usually when I teach breathing meditation or mindfulness, I focus on the 3B, our body, our breath, and our brain. In my understanding of beginning practice, we are trying to cultivate a concentrated balance through all of these 3 components. When we are able to attend to adjust in a certain way, then we can reach our inner peace. Body, breath, and brain. For example, we have talked for an hour now. Have you noticed how have you been sitting? Is it a sitting position that is comfortable? Is it a position that allows you to sit for a longer time without burdening your body? And how are we breathing? Is there anyone for the whole hour you have been fully aware of the way that you breathe? Sensations of the breath, the pattern, the strength, how deep, how shallow. Maybe we are not. But when we are able to attend back to our breath, it actually soothes our mind and help us detach from many things in our thoughts. And in our brain, not the physical brain, but our mind, our thoughts. Are we aware of how it works? When I listen to what is being presented, what do I think? Do I like it, not like it? And what do I do when I like it or not like it? Am I interested? Am I bored? Am I distracted? And all 3 components are something that, or object that we try to be aware of, and bit by bit, when we try to cultivate our awareness, we can tranquilize the mind and calm down in a present moment. So the experience is like we are all a glass of water, clear. But then many things happen in daily life, many emotions. Something we don't like, something we run for, something we worry about. There are many thoughts. And then our mind, it keeps playing with, pursuing or resisting the thoughts and emotions, so that we are no longer clear. We are no longer in this moment. We get lost in our thoughts, our minds, and all the things happen. Mindfulness is to ground the mind in a single point, so that the thought, the emotions, doesn't have any force to sustain them, to feed them, so that our mind can be clear again by precipitating all the disturbing experiences. So this is what we do. First of all, mindful seeing. Like I said, we can use all our 6 senses to focus, and then we can tranquilize the mind. Say here, Canada is a beautiful place. One way that we can be happy is to use our eyes to focus on things that are beautiful and let ourselves immerse in the beauty. Beautiful sun, the clouds, the trees and mountain. Or even here, when you look around, well, beautiful Buddha statue. Nice place here, very peaceful and tranquil. The problem is many times we are always on the go. We've thought that we have to go somewhere, see something different to be happy, but it's not. It can be here and now. Anything you see, you can be able to see the beauty of it. Let me ask you a question. Do you think you are good at paying attention to see something? Do you think you have a good observation skills? Pretty good? Very good. So mindful seeing, we can do a test and see how good you are in paying attention to see things. Are you ready? Okay.
Is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Only count how many passes does the white team make, okay?
The answer is 13.
How many get 13?
But did you see the moonwalking bear?
So most of the time, when we show this video, the participants are very focused in counting the number of passes. Many people actually get it close or get it right, but most of the time, they do not see the moonwalking bear. What does it tell us? It tells us that out of our awareness of things is actually much more narrow and limited as we thought. Most of the time, we only see things we want to see, and we ignore all other things. When we do that, we are also ignoring the beauty, the potential happiness of many things that is around us. Being mindful, being fully aware, one implication is we're expanding, widening our awareness so that we can observe more things, including things that make us happy. Okay, mindful movements. Besides using breathing and seeing the focus of our mind, I want to ask you guys, anyone does any Tai Chi or exercise here? 有冇做太極啊? Or other like yoga, those kind of things? No? It's interesting that in our Buddhist counseling sessions, we do not just teach clients to sit and breathe. Many times when people who are unhappy, when people have anxiety, stressed, or even depressed, we start with moving their bodies. When they move their bodies, it lessens, releases some of the tension. So we usually incorporate certain kind of mindful movement, especially before sitting meditation, so that after they release some of the energy in the body, it's easier for them to focus on their mind. One of the adaptation of mindful movement that we do is the 八段锦. You guys have heard about it, right? 八段锦, yes, and maybe some of you have practiced. It's interesting that we did some research in the University of Hong Kong. For participants who do 八段锦 per week for 12 weeks, without anything else, it was proven that it can lower their blood pressure. They even become more fit. It reduces their waistline. It makes them having better sleep quality, and they can reduce their anxiety and depression. Isn't that magical? Yeah. Okay. How do you feel about we do a little bit here today? Yeah? Okay. So if you don't mind, you can join me to do 2八段锦. Okay. So sorry that because of my clothes, I cannot take out all the mic. so I can only do a little bit of the posture. The first thing is that, thank you. When you are standing, try to loosen up a little bit of your body. Use your own way. And I know that there may be many Tai Chi masters here, so I will just just forgive me. I do the best as a psychologist. I'm not a Kung Fu master, okay? So usually what we do is we extend our feet parallel to the shoulders. And the first movement I will show you one time is kind of like the bear. We breathe in, flip on the top, breathe out, releasing, and crouch down a little bit, and coming back like this. Yeah, wow, you guys are all doing so well. Yeah, you guys have learned before? A little bit? Yeah, okay. So let's try. We will do it 3 times. Maybe you can follow my pace or at your own pace. The slower, the more difficult. But I think a little slower is more effective. So most importantly, we need to relax shoulders and neck. Many times when we are stressed, it's being locked in those places. Okay? So breathe in, flip all the way, breathe out, very good. So we do it again, breathe in, breathe out, I'll try to see whether I can do better with this outfit, okay? Breathe in. And one last time, breathe in. Very good, very good. Yeah. So usually after this part, we feel that it releases some tension in our back and shoulders. And we will try the second one. I think it's very difficult, but you will see whether you can do it or not. Most importantly, do not hurt yourself. 如果唔得，唔好勉強。Okay. Okay, so this one, I will show you one time and see whether you feel like doing it. Because when I saw it the first time, I don't want to do it. 我第一次見到我都有啲驚，唔係好想做。Okay, so how many of you have watched the very old, here? This one, okay. I don't know if you have ever seen 射雕英雄傳. This is actually the position. Okay, it's like something like that. It's very difficult, right? Because you need to be low enough to work on the hips. Okay, let me try again. Very difficult, right? Let me try a little bit different position here. Okay. Is it difficult? Yeah, this part needs a lot of muscles. Yeah. And to be honest, usually what I do is that I go online to learn from those Tai Chi masters, and later we can send out some of the clips to show you. We cannot do a lot today about that. But I hope that you realize this when you move a little bit. Our whole body, our mind become a little different. I feel a little bit more relaxed just by moving a little bit. So to end with this time, maybe we'll just stand there and take 3 mindful deep breaths to end with the sessions. Okay, we breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Okay, thank you. Please have a seat. So I think most of us has heard about or seen singing bowl, right? What I would like to do is I will hit it 1 time, and you don't need to do anything. Just try to listen to the sound, okay? So, do you like it? Do you not like it? Okay? Good. The second thing I would like you to try is, I want you to attend to the sound, to focus on the sound from the beginning to the ending. When you feel that the sound has totally ended, I would like you to gently raise your hand to let me know you have heard it ended. Okay? So, fully mindful listening. When it ends, raise your hand. Everyone raise your hand a little different time, right? So, the singing bowl, when I hit it, the voice actually take a little bit time to become strongest. And then it kind of ripples, go down bit by bit. Until the very end, there was still some residue sound. You need to be very calm and focused to be able to hear the ending of the sound. Let me ask you, how many of you were still thinking about something upset you or problems in life when you listen to that? No, right? Just by focusing on a singing bowl for 2 times, we can momentarily disengage from all the problems. This is part of the effect of mindfulness. Sometimes our problems doesn't have to be the exact problems that we face, but our problems are how much we ruminate, overthinking, that make us unclear, that make us feel worse than a reality. Things like mindful listening, seeing, or breathing help us to disengage from our thoughts and come back to the present. And in our surrounding, there are many beautiful voices. We have music, we have chanting, we have sounds of the nature, especially here in Canada. The sounds of birds, the sounds of sea, the sound of wind blowing the trees. As long as you allow yourself to listen and enjoy the happiness, it can help to soothe our mind and be peaceful. So, mindful breathing. How many of you have tried mindful breathing before? 有冇試過禪手打坐？有？ Yeah? Yeah? Okay. Let's do one mindful breathing exercise. Okay? When we start, I want you to be fully aware of how you breathe in and how you breathe out. And we stop when I ask you to stop. Okay? Are you ready? We start now. Fully aware of your breathing in, fully aware of your breathing out. Okay, session finished. Is it too short? What? Finished? Yes. Any mindful breathing, the basic is being fully aware of your experiences. One way that we use many times is the sensations of the breathing in and out. It's not about how long that you close your eyes to sit there. It is about how mindful you are in the process. Just now, it was only a few seconds. But in that few seconds, were you able to be aware of the whole breath? Kind of? Remember the concept of one breath. Every time, what you need to do is very simple. Just come back to that one breath. That one breath of in and out, in and out. If you forget, if you get distracted, just come back to that one breath. When you attend to one breath fully, you are meditating already. Okay? That concept extends to one mindful tasting of food, one mindful drinking of tea, one mindful step of walking, or one mindful breath like what we did just now. Okay? So, for meditation, today we may not have a lot of time to practice together, but I do want to say the sitting is actually very important. When we do meditation, you don't have to always do a half lotus or full lotus. But for me, from my experience, the back to the head, that upright position is the most important thing. Meaning that, of course, if you can, doing the half lotus or full lotus or Burmese style, they are all very helpful. But if you cannot, from my experience, it's always about whether you can sit in a posture that support your back, so that your back is straight but not tight. Your shoulders and chest are relaxed, and your head also upright, because when you start meditating, it's easy that you have sloth and torpor, you feel tired, you are bored. And then, if you have an upright position, it can help you give some alertness. But remember, being that upright doesn't mean that you're holding your body tight to forcefully maintain a position. Imagine your body is like holding this rod. No matter how you hold it, it's still not very balanced. To remain balanced, it is to basically put it down. You are putting down your body. Meaning that when you put down your body, you're sitting in a way that you use the least muscles to maintain a steady sitting position. When your back is upright, your muscles on the shoulders are like clothes putting on a hanger. While your body, the bones act like the hanger, your muscle can relaxedly lean on it. This is a balance between upright and being relaxed. So rule number 2, learn and practice unconditional happiness. We need too many reasons to be happy, right? What makes you happy? Can I ask what makes you happy? Studying. Very good. What makes you happy? Reading. Wow. Can I ask what makes you happy?
Fulfilling the purpose of life.
Fulfilling the purpose of life. Wow, big one. Can I ask, 你有啲咩令你開心㗎 ？The same. 有啲咩令你開心㗎？平靜 peaceful。有啲咩令你開心㗎？平靜 OK。哇 the answers are so deep and profound that I don't know how to teach. Okay, like I just come from Hong Kong. What makes Hong Kong people happy include spicy hot pot, going to Japan for shopping, eating very good seafood like lobster, abalone, making a lot of money, buying a few apartments to rent to people, nice car, nice watch. That's what makes many Hong Kong people happy. Do you see that? Yeah, for many people. The problem is we actually have too many reasons. We hold on to too many reasons to allow ourselves to be happy. We always thought that we cannot be happy now. Happiness is something we need to go get it. We need to pursue. We need to chase. We need to grasp. When we give ourselves too many reasons, then we cannot be happy. When you get the few apartments that is renting for people, when you buy the nice car, nice watch, when you finally get to a place that I thought I would be happy when I'm there, usually you're less happy than you expected, because the happiness is never there. In Buddhism, in Buddhist studies in our program, one slogan is the pursuit of sustainable happiness. How to make it stable, how to make it easily accessible. Well, if we are too busy finding reasons to be happy, we cannot be sustainable. Meditation, part of that is to cultivate our sensitivity to happiness, meaning that can we be unconditionally happy? I remember going to a Dharma talk by Rinpoche, and he asked all the audiences, how many people here want to win a lottery? 有冇人想中六合彩啊? Then he said, lucky you. I can teach you a way that you are happy like winning a lottery. Take a breath. Eat breakfast. Look at the sun. Every day, when I wake up and feel that, I'm alive, I have a good breath. I eat yogurt. The breakfast is so nice. I feel the weather. I see the sun. I am as happy as winning the lottery. I don't know what you think, but for a regular Hong Kong person, we find it very silly. But the way that we find it silly is our ignorance. In fact, there's nothing to stop us from being happy for any simple things in life. I don't know, have you ever seen young children playing, being silly, saying something, hearing something, and laughing genuinely? They can do that. They may not be as skillful as we are, but they can do that. But why does growing up make us lose all our ability to be happy? Happiness can be learned and practiced. It can be through kindness to ourselves and others. It can be through enjoying things around you. It can be through our interconnectedness, like in this room, sitting with people who are kind and compassionate. We are happy, and we can allow ourselves to be happy. So this rule reminds us unconditional happiness. No matter how small something is, you can be happy about that. In psychology, we have exercise called 3 good things. This is from positive psychology. It has been proven to be very helpful for people to cope with depression or sleeping problems. What you do is actually very simple. Just to recollect 3 good things that happened in a day before you sleep. Right before you sleep, you reflect on your day and think about, are there at least 3 things that happened? If there are, write that down, remember it, and see how it makes you feel. But for Buddhist counseling, I modified it a little bit. 3, unconditional happiness. During the day, starting right at this moment, are there any ways that we can remind ourselves to pause and enjoy the present moment? Just like how you are relaxing your body, how you breathe, how you listen to different sounds, how you taste different food, how you feel grateful to different people. And before you sleep, if you want to be a happier person before you sleep, I want you to think about throughout the day, are there at least 3 moments that you were happy? You allow yourself to fully enjoy and be fully aware of the happiness. And try to write it down on a notebook or on your phone to remind yourself that every day, no matter how good or how bad the day is, we still have a right, have the privilege to be happy. Again, happiness is a product of learning and practicing, and it's free of charge. You can start any moment, including now. Rule number 3, be kind. very simple. Be kind. How many of you are kind to other people? Can you raise your hand if you are kind to other people? Yeah, good, good, good. How many people are kind to yourself? This is a big difference. Thank you, thank you. Most of us are kind to other people, but not kind to ourselves. If we are not kind to ourselves, can we be genuinely be kind to other people? I'm not sure. I think how we treat ourselves actually relates to how we treat other people. If we can be kind to ourselves, thank ourselves, love ourselves, we will be much better in being kind, thankful, and loving for other people. Well, there's an exercise that Venerable Hin Hong and I developed. It's called What I Actually Want to Say Is. In Chinese is 其實我想同你講. So many times we are upset not because of people on the street. It's because our close ones, our family, our partner, our children, that hurt us the most. And in our daily interactions or conversation with them, sometimes it turns into a fight, sometimes it turns into something unpleasant, but it was not our intention. Kindness sometimes is you allow your heart to be open, to be vulnerable, to say, to speak out of your good intention to the other person. To start with, I want you to think about one statement, one thing that you say all the time to a person close to you. But that statement usually is not very pleasant. Usually it's a little uncomfortable. Like, 我話咗你㗎啦, I tell you again. Why don't you listen to me? 你成日都唔聽講嘅. Those kind of statements. Think about like whether you have any. Anyone have any? No? If you have, think about that statement or interaction. We pause a little bit and reflect, what is it that I need? Like, what do I want to do? What is the kindness or love? And more importantly, if I find out the kindness or love from that statement, would there be a softer, more skillful way to say the same thing based on my intention instead of causing a fight? Most of the time, when we fight with someone we love, our intention is not to cause a fight. Our intention is to get what we need. Sometimes we want them to be better, to be more happy. Sometimes I want to be more happy. That's why I initiate the contact. When things happen, I hold on to the I, myself, and we fight. But this is not what I want. And if you can, think about the kindness embedded in the statement. Try to shift it, rewrite it, reword it into totally positive and pure. No criticisms, no complaint, and open with what I actually wanted to say is. For example, there are many nagging from parents to children or partners. Can you just stop playing video games? 你可唔可以唔好成日打機啊? Like that. And the new statement is, what I actually wanted to say is, I nag you about video gaming because I want to know I'm important to you and I want all of you to be here with me. 其實我想同你講，我成日鬧你話你打機係因為 我想知道我對你嚟講係重要嘅，我想同你一齊嗰陣時，你係真係完全全心同我喺埋一齊。Can you imagine the two different statements? If you say to the same person, the effect will be very different. But what it takes is not our skills to say something different. It is the skills to allow ourselves to be kind, to soothe our anger, to soothe our frustration, to take risk, to know that we can be rejected, but still, because we love that person, we allow our kindness to drive our communication with them. This is the most important thing, and this is very important in any relationship. The final rule, most difficult one. There are some concepts that is hard to cover in this part, but I will try. I don't have to be who I am, and there is always a choice. I don't have to be George, and there is always a choice that I can let go being who I am. Well, think about what makes you upset. Think about the last time you get irritated, you get upset, you were unhappy. Usually, in those situations, we have become I. I want this, but I don't get it. I hate it, but I get it. I like it, I thought I have it, but I have to lose it. Those are the common things that because I see things only from this perspective, so it makes me upset. So, in order to be not so affected by the I, we need to focus on how we react. Usually something happens, I get offended. Like you have a son, grandson, a child who cried, not listen to you because I'm a parent. So this kind of example really resonates with me. And you get angry. Your I get offended. So you yell, you become agitated. And you retaliate. You went back, yelled at a child, yelled at someone you love, because I don't get what I want. I don't feel respected. The ego, the I, get hurt. In that situation, there's almost no gap. What happened? Triggered emotions, emotion triggered a response. Nothing pause in between. But in fact, there can be little gap in every single thought. There can be gap between our emotions and reactions. So there's a very famous saying by Viktor Frankl, who is very influential to the psychotherapy of local therapy. He said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Simply, there is always a gap between what happened and how we respond. Usually we don't have the gap because the I was dominant and keep on going. Once you have a gap, you have a freedom to make a different choice. Like just now, when something gets you angry, when you have the emotions, and you are able to pause yourself, take a breath, relax, ask yourself, is that what I intend to do? Tell yourself, I am not my emotion. You may still realize, I feel like I got offended. My mind keeps saying that I get offended. But your attitude can be, okay, so what? Yes, part of me feels offended, but this is not what I want. I want a good relationship with this person. Even though I feel offended, doesn't mean that I need to let my anger drive my action. So again, it's all about a gap the gap between whether we are reacting without thought or we are reflecting and then respond. It's very difficult. But there are different ways that we can extend the gap so that we can make a choice of not being who I am. Next time when you're upset, try to take 3 mindful breaths like what we did before we respond and see if that makes a difference. Imagine the last time someone gets you angry, and if you were able to take 3 breaths, you don't have to do it so explicit. You can just silently, subtly do it and respond. Then usually our choice of reaction will be very different. Second thing is grounding. Just now we tried listening, seeing, moving, and breathing. When we are upset, one thing we can do is to focus on some other things in the environment. Try to put full attention to it. Touch the chair, the table, appreciating things around us, listening to sounds, so that we can concentrate our mind to something different. And then a very strong thought can dissipate, can fade out a bit. When that happens, our mind is more clear. We can come back to handle what happened. Another thing is about changing environment. When we are at a fight, when we are upset, we usually say things that we did not want to say. Have you ever had any experiences of when you have a fight, you said things that you regretted later? Yeah, right? Some of you are smiling, so it must be. If you realize this, your whole state of your body and mind is actually not in a good state. What you say, what you do is no longer from kindness, and it will cause more distractions. It's okay to take a break, to calm down, and then come back later. Another thing also very important is when you're suffering from a strong emotional stress, very worried, very anxious, one trick that we teach clients is teach them to come back to the body, focus back to the sensations of the body. Maybe you have heard about Satipatthana Sutta, 四念住經. The first frame of mindfulness is our body. There are a few reasons of why it works. Most of the time, when we have strong emotions, we are focusing on our thought of our proliferations, and we get lost, we get hurt. But the body is easier to be grounded in the present moment. When we focus on the sensations, it directly draws us back to the present moment. Many times when I work with clients who are anxious, when they talk about their anxiety, I gently pause them and ask them, at this moment, how does your body feel? Is there any tension, any rigidity? And invite them to just attend to that part and observe breathing in, out, in, out. Most of the time they realize that just by the simple shift of attention, the anxiety level actually go down quite a bit. So this is something that I can invite you to do next time when you are really upset. Come back to the body. Finally, recollection. It's very difficult. But then when you are doing upsetting time, a fight, If you have one moment of mindfulness that you want to pause, think about something pleasant, kindness, compassionate. For example, if you're able to pause, you can ask yourself, what if I have more kindness for myself and this person? What will I do? What if I am not my emotions? What will I do? So those are some of the tricks that I would like to teach you and show you. And again, for the talk today is about how can we be a happier person. Hopefully, meditation practice, being kind, allowing yourself to be unconditionally happy. And don't have to carry the burden to be who you are, can help you to be a happier person. Thank you. Yeah, so now it's a Q&A time, and we can take some time to answer some questions. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Dr. Lee, for a very great talk. I'd like to ask, okay, what's the difference or similarity between the teaching of Buddhism and psychologists? This may be too general question. Maybe I should address, just limit to counseling. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a good question. I will start with a somewhat simple answer, but I think that's very meaningful. In psychology, most of the schools in psychology, they believe in a self. Starting from psychotherapy, the founder, Sigmund Freud, he believed that there is something deeper in our subconsciousness. That is a self. And our goal to be happy actually is to get to know the self, making the subconsciousness more conscious, to release the emotions. So in many psychological schools, it was impacted by that kind of thought. They believe that there is a certain kind of inner self. To be happy is to flourish the inner self. In Buddhism, this is a main difference. We don't believe in a permanent self. Buddhism believes in a non-self, anatta, mo. It's not to deny certain kind of existence now. This is George, I'm my body, I'm talking to you. It's not to deny that. But it is to say the self is dependent arising. It's based on many conditions. It's impermanent. To liberate from suffering, we need to see the nature and not just hold on to the self. But in psychology, it doesn't say that. Psychology is about flourishing the self. Buddhism is about letting go to cling into the self. This is the main difference. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have a question from online from Derek asking, how do Buddhist counseling connect to karma and fate?
Oh, karma and fate.
Yeah, thank
Wow.
you.
Karma is a very interesting topic in Buddhism. In our general understanding, karma is big. It determines a lot of things. Oh, I have a bad health, it must be bad karma. I have a good life, must be some good karma. But from my study of Buddhism, karma is just one of the factors of how things happen. There are many other factors. Your decisions in life, your environment, many different things. Karma, from my understanding of Buddhism, the main essence is an action, is a decision. Is an action or decision on how you say something, how you think about something, how you behaviorally act on something. Every time you made a decision on your speech, on your thoughts, on your behaviors. You are flourishing certain kind of karma to go into a certain direction. For example, every time if you're agitated, if you're irritated, I decide to think more badly about that person. I have ill will. I wish that person fall down on the street. I don't know how Ernest will translate. Then you are flourishing a bad karma. You are more likely to think badly of person again and again. If I choose to flourish a karma, to think kindly, act kindly of a person, then we will continually become a habit. The karma will lead us to be more kind, and the relationship will be more positive. Instead of thinking karma as mystic universal forces, in Buddhist counseling, I focus on karma as a decision moment by moment. As long as we are aware, we can make a more skillful decision and cultivate better karma. So when we change our karma, we can change our fate. We may not change physically what happened, but we can change our attitude to what happened. When our change of attitude of what happened, we're changing a whole new world.
Okay, thank you. And Marisa have another question. Does Buddhist counseling apply to all situations? For example, someone has experienced trauma, critical illness, death, or loved ones. Where does intervention begin?
This is a huge question. I will try to answer by saying that in the world, there's no intervention for everyone. Every person, their experiences, their mental state, their body are different. So any kind of treatment, it needs understanding of the person's special background and tailor-made something for the person. Trauma, for example, if someone who is traumatized, their mind, their body are usually very disturbed, very unstable. If I think, oh, I'm doing Buddhist counseling, so you come, we do a sitting meditation, I think it would be very troublesome. Because when they sit down, very likely, when they close their eyes, they can be easily intruded by the thoughts and memories of the trauma. To apply Buddhist counseling to that situation, I may try something very different, starting with safety, something that can ground their mind, something that not triggering the trauma, but then help them focus on something pleasant. It could be bodily movement, can be art, can be playing games, but in a more mindful, more pleasant, slower way. When they are able to feel safe and secure, we can do more advanced practice, like sitting meditation if possible. If not, it's okay. And then in trauma, usually it involves holding on to certain kind of experiences or view. I would say something that is very difficult to just understand, which is when we are able to flourish the mental distance, we can see how we are holding on to some past events and traumatic experiences that hurt ourselves again and again. And like I said earlier, at some point, we need to make a conscious decision that we want to let go of that and no longer hold on to such experiences, which takes a long time and very compassionate counselor and client who are willing to be compassionate to themselves.
Okay, thank you. Question from Janet. It takes time to cultivate our mind. Should meditation be used during the transition period?
I'm not sure which is a transition.
A transition, like some our loved one passed away, and then that kind of situation.
For ourselves or
for ourselves.
I think so. I think this is mindfulness can be applied any moment in life, and it can be in different forms. And in transitional period, I think something to be mindful of is our emotions, our needs. What makes me so sad when an important one is passing? All of us have a different reason to be sad. Missing a person, feel that I have a lot of regret, or I have not been good enough, and different things. The first thing is that we need to try to cultivate acceptance. To know maybe we have done what we could. To know maybe at this time we cannot make magic happen to make our important one not die. Once we accept that, we can see in the limited time now, what can I still do for the betterment of ourselves and the other person? All it takes is to come back to the present moment, to be still sad but relatively calm, so that we can make a skillful decision.
Thank you. Janet, add on, meditation or drug or antidepressant? Yeah.
Meditation on drugs or antidepressant?
Yeah.
我諗佢個問題係話，即係如果喺呢啲情況底下，即係用藥物同埋佛法輔導兩者之間。
This is a difficult question. I think, I would say from my experience, extreme, very severe situation, many times we need to rely on medication. We have a body and mind. Medication directly tune our body, our neurotransmitters, so that sometimes if the meditation is tuned right, our mind can be more stable, so they can focus on your mind. I also think to the contrary, even though medication is useful, there are many things that we can still do and we should still do to cultivate our mind. Something very simple. Eat well, sleep well, do exercises, get some sunlight, maintain good connection with people. Those sound simple. Most of the time, when I tell people those are the 5 things that you can do to make you a happier person, they all know it, heard about it, but most of them have not done all of them regularly. Focus on that part. Do it regularly. At the same time, counseling, talking to people, our own practice are equally important. Some good psychiatrists I've met, they do not just start with medication. They ask you to do those kind of life habits, to have a good, regular, functional life and see if that works. If that works, you may not need medication. If it doesn't work, maybe add medication and counseling. So I see that as a sequential process and they cannot actually replace each other.